Hey everybody, it's Tracy again. And so I've got a lot of inquiries about different gaming domiciles for licensing. And the question that I seem to get a lot is like startups, right? Like we're a new operation, where do we go? And the reverse of that is I'm an established or growing gaming operation, and what's like the next step, right? Like if you're in a Isle of Man or Curacao, that's not really a destination. It's more of like a startup, like stepping stone to something better, right? And one location that's really interesting is Malta, and it comes up a lot. And it's really one of the more arduous places to go get the license because there's so much that goes into it, right? And Malta's great because while there's a lot of licensees, it's well respected throughout really the globe, and it's part of the EU, so you have passporting rights really all over, with the exception of the US. So when it comes to Malta, the big thing is there's a three-pronged approach to the application. First, you have your sort of KYC, AML, and background check, which is really heavily focused not so much on like just whether people have been convicted of a crime or whatever, but actually on your abilities as a gaming operator. So, your CV and the people you have aligned with you really need to have not only like just basic gaming experience, like significant gaming experience. Second part is an audit, right? Like an internal development audit. And this really goes into the games itself, your platform. So there's no possibility like there is in like Curacao or in other jurisdictions where you don't have the games, or you've like white labeled the games and like you're going to get it after you get the license or anything like that. It doesn't work that way, right? So you have to have like the platform fully built, and they'll audit it for fairness, right? That it's provably fair. Your games, whether it's sportsbook, slots, table games, whatever the case may be. So that's part two. Part three is a compliance audit, which involves an actual on-site review of your servers, your compliance team, and all that, which obviously begs for a heavy investment in economic substance, right? Like you need people on the ground, you need people who are actually doing something. It's not like BVI or some of these other places where you just have a big empty office with like somebody, playing on Facebook all day, right? For like minimum wage. This is a scenario where you need somebody there, more than one person, who knows what they're doing, who has a daily active role in the operations. You have servers, you have everything hosted in Malta, and they're going to come, and even if you're going to operate it from the UK, from wherever you want, you've got to be there for it. So it's also one of these things where you physically have to appear in Malta, which isn't the worst place in the world, but it's a bigger endeavor than what you're going to find in like Curacao, Isle of Man, Costa Rica, even in like some of the British Isles like Jersey, Guernsey. You don't really have to do that, right? Gibraltar, you don't have to do that. Malta, it's a definite requirement. So you have these three elements, and it can take a while. I mean, it can literally take 6-7 months to get through them, right? And that's with like having your act together, having everything done. And it's really not for startups, right? Like there's a huge emphasis on the financial capabilities and track record of the applicant. I'm not saying startups can't do it, but startups better be well capitalized in order to do it. And the capitalization requirement ranges from 40,000 euro to 240,000 euro. And and that's up to the discretion of the gaming authority. And that's all going to be based on where you are as an entity, right? Startups, you can just assume you're going to have $240,000 or euros laying around. There's just no other way, right? So, and the more established you are, that number is going to go down. And obviously profitability matters too, because if you're operating somewhere else and you're not profitable, and then you go to Malta, you're going to get tied up because they're going to ask you, why aren't you profitable, right? Why aren't you profitable? Gaming has huge margins. So what's wrong with you? Right? Like that's something that I've encountered with different clients. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you make it work in this jurisdiction and think that you're going to make it work with a license in Malta? So it's very cost intensive, rigorous, and requires a lot of time usually like I could quarterback these, and the UBOs don't really have much involvement other than like signatures. But for Malta, as a promoter, you are heavily involved. As a key person, you are heavily involved because it's big KYC, physical visits, and the whole 9 yards. So and you have to have a fully built platform, no white label kind of nonsense. So it's a great license. It's worth it in the end, for sure, right? I think, as a stepping stone, like, and I've talked about this multiple times before, all these other, rinky-dink Curacao, etc. It's great. Start there. Get a provable model, get a client base, build up brand reputation, and then move on, right? And Malta, I think, is really, outside of getting licenses like directly in the UK or US, something like that, it's really like your penultimate kind of landing spot, right? So, I don't want to throw water or, sort of dampen enthusiasm about it, but be wary of what it takes to get the license, because it's not anything like any of the other licenses outside of your tier ones, like US, UK, etc. So if you have any questions, definitely hit me up, Adam at adamtracy.io, and I will talk to you next time. Cheers.